All right. America, time for you to get serious. It's time for you to take action to take our country back. Let me start this broadcast out with the following phrase for the powers that be. Nothing I say during this segment or any other segment or any discussion or broadcast that I make advocates anything illegal. But I do advocate that citizens around this country take it upon themselves to stop waiting for organization, which ain't going to happen, and do everything and anything within your power to lock this thing down. Be a Lilliputian, but be a Lilliputian with prejudice. What does that mean? It means that you do anything and everything within your power, legally, to gum up the works. That means you file a lawsuit. It doesn't take much. You don't even have to, it doesn't even have to really be a good lawsuit. It just has to be one that makes them respond. You understand? In other words, they've got teams of attorneys. That's all they do. Well, let's make them work. File lawsuits on everything. The filing fees, consider that your contribution to the preservation and restoration of America. File a lawsuit on everything you can. File them state, file them local, file them in your county superior court, file them in your federal courts. Get an attorney in your area who's willing to file them if necessary on your behalf, although you don't need one. You can file pro se. So let's use the courts to drown them in paperwork. Let's make them move paperwork by the tractor trailer load. Let's make sure that we get courts to place injunctions on them. Let's get our county commissioners to pass resolutions that says you may not violate our land use plan. What is a land use plan? Well, every county has one. And if they don't, go to your county commissioner and demand that one be immediately drawn up. I don't care how outline it is, how lean and thin it may be. Get a county use plan together and work with your county commissioners to make sure that they understand that the whole purpose of this, if they don't already have one, is that you are going to gum up the works of the EPA, which is trying to steal their authority anyway. So they ought to be happy to help you. If you got a traitor in your midst, remove them. It's that simple. Get them out. Recall them if you can. If you can't recall them, you got a 2014 election coming up. Get them out. Put them on notice right up front. You're either for us or you're against us. And if you're against us, we have no problem removing you from the equation. Dishonorably discharge him or her and move on to the next step. Get county commissioners who will sign and create a county land use plan. This idea of a land use plan can be extraordinarily powerful in the right hands, and most people don't realize what it is or how it's used. But the idea of a land use plan enables your county to say that you have to provide us with an environmental impact statement if you intend on implementing such and such a rule here. Good. Make the EPA produce the science. Make them produce the environmental impact statement. Make them produce the economic impact statement. Now you got tools you can go to court with. File the court suit anyway. Just gum it up. Is that a frivolous lawsuit? No. Make it legitimate. Work with an attorney. Find some attorney who's willing to put a little bit of time and skin and elbow grease into the preservation of our nation so he's not one of the first ones hung when they decide to march on the United States of America and lock down who? All the lawyers and the teachers and the educators, because those are usually the first to go. So remind him of that. And then say, look, I'll file the darn thing. I just need you to give me the forms or give me a sample. And file. File, 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 file. Hundreds of them, thousands of them. Bury these scumbags in paper. And don't wait another minute. All right. Let's get on to StingRay, your next target of opportunity. And every other corporation that's betraying you. StingRay is created by Harris Corporation. This StingRay is the device that your county government, your local police department, your city police department, your sheriff's office, they're obtaining surreptitiously, because Harris Corporation makes them sign a non-disclosure agreement, whether or not they even have one. And then they put it up on a cell tower. And it pretends to be a tower that belongs to AT&T or Verizon or Sprint or whatever carrier you use. It's capturing all of your data. It's capturing all of your contact lists. It's capturing all of your texting. It's getting a hold of all of your cell phone records. It's a violation of your Fourth Amendment. First and foremost, if you find one, tear it down. Remove it physically. Secondarily, file lawsuits county by county by county. We got 3,200 counties in the United States. Get your county commissioners to file a lawsuit. Oh, they won't because they're chicken because they're elected. All right, then bypass them. My point is this, ladies and gentlemen. It's either get creative and you do this peacefully now in a legal fashion, or it won't be long before we're going to be doing this as partisans and outlaws. What are your choices? You can do this legally now, and you can use every tool and means at your disposal. Don't allow the naysayers to say, well, that lawsuit's not going to work. I don't even care if it works. I just want them buried in papers. I want them to have to move paperwork, not with a tractor trailer. I want enough paper flowing to have to bury the Brazilian rainforests, bury them in paper. Make them do their work. Ladies and gentlemen, you've got to get with the program here, because the alternative here is to just allow this thing to descend to the point where we're in a shooting war with our own government. Every step they make, every move they make, every breath they take is designed for one thing: your enslavement, their growing power, which isn't growing now in cell by cell. Look at the growth of the federal government in the last 15 years. Look back 30 years. It has grown not exponentially. It has grown by orders of magnitude exponentially. It now controls everything down to what you wipe your rear end with, all the way up to what can you do in your car? Where can you go? How do you travel? What can they do to make you uncomfortable while you travel? I read the thing the other day about the TSA and how they're going back in and they're looking at did you pay your county taxes? And if you owe a bill because you stiffed a credit card company, they're turning around and saying, here's this guy's information. They're acting like mercenaries on behalf of private corporations. Is that government's role? Harris Corporation has developed, designed, created, and is now dispensing StingRays all over the United States of America. The heck with the NSA. This is your local sheriff, your local police department that is betraying you. Where's their Fourth Amendment violation stamp of approval? They can't say it's for national security. We're trying to protect you from towel-headed terrorists. Their argument, the best argument they can put forth, is crime. And your Fourth Amendment is not obliterated because of their fear of crime, which I might remind you has been dropping precipitously for decades now. And not because of all the electronic surveillance, I might add. So, what do? Well, Harris Corporation, if you drive a truck and you pick up and drop off deliveries from Harris, don't let another one get right. If you're a dispatcher, send the one that's supposed to be going to Kentucky all the way out to Wyoming. It's a harmless paperwork error. I don't know. I guess I was just sleepy that morning. Are you starting to get the picture here? If you work for the phone company, disconnect their service when they're late. It's a harmless mistake. I mean, I thought it said 300, not 30 days. I'm sorry. Look, folks, it's legal. Not doing anything wrong. What you are doing is you're taking an opportunity to fight back against tyranny and abuse. You're fighting back as a partisan now while we can do so peacefully. This is civil disobedience. Make no mistake about it. Boycotting companies that are actively seeking to betray you and injure you and your family is not only logical, it's demanded of you. It's a duty. What do you think our founding fathers would say if you said to them, what do we do about all these corporations that sell the government the technology that they use to tyrannize us? What do you think they'd say? They'd say, well, didn't you read in your history book about this thing we called the Tea Party when we went and climbed on a ship and we took all the tea and we threw it overboard? Didn't you hear about the time that we went and we ransacked the powder stores of the British? This was all before the first shot was fired. People, here's the deal. You have to be creative and you have to be intelligent. You've been given a gift of intelligence, a gift of critical thought, a gift of the ability to think around corners. That's something the animal world can't do. So I'm asking you, what are you doing with that wonderful gift that you have? Are you using it for something other than moving your thumbs around to play a video game? Are you using it for something other than to mindlessly watch a box for morons? Meant, designed, and intended to make you a moron. What are you using that gift of brilliance for? Well, why don't you get creative and become a partisan and fight back against the tyranny that is all around us? I don't know why you wouldn't do so. It's the only thing for you to do. How can you go after Harris Corporation? Well, they're a monster company. Do you work for UPS or FedEx? Can you redirect the box somewhere? You know, doesn't mean you have to eliminate it. Just send it off to Muskogee, Illinois or something. I mean, you know, put it in the wrong bin. Let it get on the wrong truck. You work for the company that does their payroll. Help them make a couple of mistakes. Just clerical errors. Do you work for a law firm that works with them? Okay. Become a whistleblower and surreptitiously expose and leak some of their secrets. Do you work directly for Harris Corporation or any of their subsidiaries that are involved with this? StingRay? Okay. Look, do you work for a police department that has a StingRay and you've been as concerned as we are about its use? Well, why don't you come out and make a press announcement? Why don't you contact me, Mike, at americasvoicenow.org, and just send me a quick email. Give me a phone call. We'll communicate if necessary on a burner or something. And, I mean, whatever it takes so that you can expose what's going on in your own department, your own sheriff's office, your own county governments. Do you work for a cell phone carrier where they're mounting these on your towers? Do you work for the tower company where they're mounting these? Are you the guy who does the repairs for the police and sheriff's department, and you know what vehicles they're using to utilize these things surreptitiously around the community? Are you the radio technician that takes care of them? You see, you got to start thinking, people, outside the box. The truth is, if you put a few minutes of thought to it, you could probably figure out a host of ways in which you can, make some significant inroads into bottling up the works. File a few lawsuits file it as a class action suit. File it as a non-class action suit. File a lawsuit against Harris Corporation for their participation in the violation of your Fourth Amendment. How about 1,000 of those simultaneously filed? Harris Corporation would be like, hey, legal counsel, what the heck is going on here? They got to answer them all. All of them. Legal counsel will be like, hey, we don't have enough lawyers on staff to handle all this. All right, well, you better outsource that law firm over at Smith or Dewey, Cheatham and Howe. So they pick up the phone and they call Dewey, Cheatham and Howe and they say, hey, we need 800 little minions to come over here and file briefs. Dewey, Cheatham and Howe says, that's great. That'll be $680,000, please. Hey, you just accomplished the task. Look, they beat us to death by attrition every day. Why not use it back? Why not accomplish the same thing, the same way, the same methodology? These cops who are using this StingRay, it's unconstitutional. If you're a member of city council in your city, if you are someone who works for city government or county government and you don't know if they're using these, you have an obligation on our behalf to find out if they are. And if they are, then you have an obligation to expose it to the public. You're not subject to the non-disclosure. The police chief may be, the sheriff may be, and if you ask them if they've got one and they lie to you because they're under non-disclosure, then you should be starting a campaign to remove them from office. It's up to you, people, to get creative about how you're going to do this. But I got to tell you, there aren't a whole lot of options left to us. We can do this peacefully. We can do this legally. We can do this in a civil disobedient manner. Or we can wait for another, 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, 24 months, 36 months, until we're in a shooting war with our own government. That's what it's coming to. So stop pretending that it's not. It just galls me that people will sit there and say, there's still a solution here. There are no peaceful solutions. There are no solutions that you can get with a ballot box. Don't you get that? The only question is, when will it happen? Not if it will happen. That's the truth. And I think it's time Americans stopped, trying to pretend. You got to face the reality, people. This is an open declaration of war. What Obama's doing to us with Obamacare, what the EPA is doing, the ATF, what these law enforcement agencies that are murdering our citizens and our fellow countrymen, it's war. It's undeclared, but it doesn't mean that people aren't dying, that they're not losing their homes and their businesses, that their children are not losing their fathers and their mothers, that people aren't going to prison, that they're not being penalized and fined. It's a war. Start treating it as such. You can wait until it's declared before you go out and do the outlawry, okay? I mean, for crimini's sake, what more do you need to know? There are so many legal ways that you as an individual can take active action to gum up the works. I mean, when you see your own county and they're going to try to do some kind of a red light camera thing, muck it up. Muck up the works. Any way, every way, stick rubber bands in the blender, go out there and pour, proverbial sugar in the tanks. I don't mean literally. I mean your object is to figure out what you can do to drag the beast to a halt. And you and 5 million other Lilliputians will find that it won't be long before Gulliver will be implacably tied down to the ground. Will there be retaliation? You betcha. Should you do something illegal? No, because that will invite retaliation on a level which you'll be sorry for. And I'm all for taking a hit for the team, but not at the cost of losing team members. We don't sacrifice ourselves just for the sake of saying we did. I'm not advocating that you do anything illegal here. I'm telling you, though, to push it to the sharp edge of illegality. Do anything and everything within your power. Make all the mistakes you can. Harris Corporation is only one of them. There are thousands of corporations. The companies, the automobile companies that sell these vehicles to these people. If the utility that supplies your local police departments. I mean, think about it, folks. They cannot exist. Think about it this way. One of the things that has been talked about quite heavily about the NSA facility in Utah is for the neighboring states, including Utah, by the way, to shut off the water and electricity supply to them because they're violating the Fourth Amendment. And these states say, you know what, you want to play hardball? We can't get you federally, so here's what we're going to do. We're just going to shut off the power, and we're going to shut off the water. And then you and your fancy, $300 billion hard drive, not going to work. I mean, unless you put up a solar panel the size of Georgia, you're not going anywhere with that. So have a nice day. Bye. Do the same thing. If you're a company that supplies any of these companies, do the same thing. Let me tell you about... Oh, we got 2 minutes left. Dagnabbit. All right, I'm going to tell you in the next segment. Our next segment is Indiana eliminates Common Core? Question mark. Not so fast. This is another one. Another opportunity for you to put the broomstick in the spokes. Common Core. Your school system, your school board, your high school, your community, your middle school, elementary school. Bring them to a screeching halt. You know what? You're the parents. All right, we're going to talk about Common Core in a minute. You're listening to America's Voice Now. If you want to communicate with me directly, my name is Michael Evans. You can email me at mike@americasvoicenow.org. That's americasvoicenow.org. mike@americasvoicenow.org. Send me an email. Send me an email with your idea. Perhaps you shouldn't send me an email with your idea. The NSA will be watching that, and then you'll telegraph your punch. So just do it. Don't tell me about it. In fact, don't tell anybody about it. Just go do it. You're the shipping clerk, and, I'm sitting here, and that bill of lading comes up, and I see it's going to Harris Corporation, and I don't know, I mistakenly light a cigarette with it or something. 60 days later, the box is still sitting there. Hello. You didn't do anything illegal. You just lit a cigarette. I mean, All right. We're going to take a break. When we return, we're going to talk about Indiana says they eliminated Common Core. Not so fast. Hang on a minute. They haven't eliminated anything. They just renamed it. You can call the devil something else. Doesn't change his stripes.